Hey there, it's Eric Dorward with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and today we're beginning a new build with the Vesta Intruder here, which is kind of a sci-fi alien-looking thing. Um, yeah, so this ought to be a fun one. This is the kind of kit that I prefer building over pretty much any other kind. It's not supposed to fly high, it's not supposed to fly far, it's not going to set any records, but the build part is going to be challenging. The painting part, fortunately, should not be too bad, although time consuming, as usual, and it should be a lot of fun. So let's delve in. Now, one odd thing, and I've already started to do this because it wouldn't really be worth watching on camera, is that the instructions about halfway through call for us to take care of the fins, which are balsa here, and they say that we should spray both sides of the balsa sheets with primer and then sand it. Now, typically, we do a bit of sanding first, then do fin construction and assembly, and then I do my whole spiel with putting on wood fill and then putting on a sanding sealer and then repeating that as necessary, then priming it, and then be ready to paint it. But this one in particular, and we'll see this in more detail a little bit later, has us constructing fins here, specifically like this little image is the best one. The balsa is going to be at the core of it. And then there's some kind of detailed like cardstock that we're going to glue to the outside of it to give it some flavor, as it were. So, because we won't be able to sand it after we put the cardstock over top of it, we need to get some basic level of work done with the fins first. So, I have already taken it upon myself to both seal, at least with this stuff, and then prime with just spray paint, primer spray paint, both pieces of balsa stock here. I have not sanded them down. I will at some point. But yeah, this took a while, as it always does. So that is something that I've already done. But today, the first real bit of focus that we have is we're going to build the engine mount. And the engine mount has some fun detail to it. So the finished product, as hopefully you can see here, has little like fins sticking out the back. And this is going to require some level of accuracy in order to get it to look right, and to get it fully flush with the end of the tube. So let's delve right in. Here is one of many pieces of cardstock for this particular build. This is all the stuff we need for the engine mount. So you can certainly use your X-Acto knife or hobby knife or whatever to cut all these burrs nicely, but I'm going to be happy with just punching them out today, I think. I might regret this, but it's certainly going to be faster. This one has little cuts in it for every place the little fun fins are going to attach. So that, my fingers are obviously too big. So I'm just going to do my best to cut through the burrs. And it looks like the burrs, well, they might be on two sides. But we'll try just cutting through one side and then punching them out, seeing how that goes. This is going to be a fairly time-consuming, oops. This is going to be a fairly time-consuming bit of construction work, especially for a motor mount. But the good news is that some of it I'm going to be very familiar with because motor mounts are motor mounts. They all basically go together the same way. And it does look like there are burrs on both sides of this. So I'm going to have to cut both directions, which is fine. Just adds a little bit more fun to the whole mix. Anyway, so the little fins here are going to go into the slots that I'm cutting out. So obviously this end is going to be the end that is close to where you stick the motor in, also because there's the notch there where the engine hook's going to go. All right, let's see how I did. Hopefully I'll be able to at least push all these through to the other side, and then I can pull them out as necessary. They seem to be pretty well cut, but they're not just falling out, unfortunately. I do want to be careful not to, you notice I'm using the blade is pointing up here because I don't want to cut through into the middle of the ring. And I don't want to cut out toward the edge of it either, but I'm going to kind of hedge my bets. All right, so yeah, I pushed most of these through. That should allow me to put that down, get rid of it for the time being. It should allow me to just pull these off pretty easily. It's actually not as easy as I had hoped, unfortunately. But again, I'd rather be careful with this than have any accidents that involve tearing this stuff. Because, I mean, it's paper. It's thick, hard, durable paper, but it's still paper. And I could definitely damage this. All right, so I'm just going to try to, like, rub this so the little bits come off. They're not completely out. But the good news is, there's a bunch of them, that when I start putting the little fins in, that should take care of a lot of the trouble. So looks like this is going to require me to cut too. I'm going to just cut in the curved edges of all these because they feel like they're especially stuck right there. Yeah, I'm going to try to like expedite this because you certainly don't want to watch me glue 12 of these little things in. So we'll probably end at that point when we get to, I'll glue a couple in and that'll be all I do on camera. But again, this is something that the kind of build that I actually do like. A lot of little detail bits that involve careful gluing, cutting, and measuring. I happen to be pretty good at that part. Painting, on the other hand, is not one of my strong suits. And as I said, fortunately, this kit doesn't require a lot of high detail painting. All right, now it's time to actually start the typical construction of the motor mount. So there's my ruler. This is a 24 millimeter motor rocket, so this is a thicker engine mount than usual. Today we are going to be marking at 1/2 inch, so there, and 1 inch, so there, and at 2.5 inches, so there. Unfortunately, this particular kit will not handle an E-motor, which, I don't know, it seems like it would be fun, but that's all right. Again, we're not looking for like raw power out of this. We're looking for a cool looking build. I guess E's are just a little too much for this design. All right, so as usual, I've cut my notch there for the engine hook. The engine hook is right here. So that's going to go in. I actually have somewhere in a box of parts, you can buy motor mounts, just kits that are nothing but, hey, here's a motor mount. They're fairly inexpensive, and you can buy them in whatever size you wanted. So if you were building a rocket and you wanted to, say, like this one, and you thought, well, maybe I don't want to put a 24 millimeter mount in it, you probably should, but you can downsize them. And likewise, you can also upsize them from 18 millimeters to 24 or 24 to 29 or whatever you want to do. This one, if I really wanted an E mount, I could go dig one out, and the tube here is just a bit longer, like this much longer, and has a longer hook. But I'm not going to do that. We'll be happy with a D. That'll be plenty. All right, so next, this bit goes on. This is just to hold the hook in place, and I'm going to put some glue at the 1 inch, behind the 1 inch mark. So this, again, doesn't require a whole lot of precision. We just want it at approximately 1 inch. It's just to hold the hook in place. So that's good enough. And we will slide the black retaining bit down and then smooth out my glue mess. Okay. Very nice. Now, on the back end of this, we need to put our engine block in, and that just goes like this. And we want it slid up to where the hook is, typically. Yeah, instructions do say that's what we want. I mean, truthfully, we could put it flush with the back here, but then the hook itself would be doing the job of the mount, or the block, and we don't want that. So This is not a particularly challenging bit either, so we'll just apply some glue on the inside here. We could put it right at the edge if that was easier. I can actually see what I'm doing pretty well. So glue inside there, push this in, and I'm going to push it until it gets to the hook, which apparently is, and that'll stop it. And I just want to make sure I haven't like pushed one side down too far and the other not enough or anything like that. No, it's fine. Okay. Next, we need to put the rings on. This ring, the one that has all the little holes in it, is going, and this notch obviously goes with the engine hook. So that's going to go here. And I'm going to get it on, and I'm going to slide it basically all the way up to the hook mount that I already put on. And then I'm going to work it back to the 1/2 inch line. And I'm going to do something similar with this. This one goes exactly at the end. So I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to slide it down a bit. And then I'm going to apply glue here at the end and here at the 1/2 inch mark. And then I'm going to push them back to where they belong. So let's do, this one's actually easier for a variety of reasons. So a little bit of glue here at the edge. And then this, like I said, it goes right at the edge, so I can just slide this thing down until it stops. And then it's going to splatter the glue all over my cutting board here, so I'm going to have to clean it up. But it should be nice and flush. It's almost flush with the edge. Just mop up my mess. I'll just double check on this. Just push my fingernail up against the motor mount to make sure it is completely flush, because it wasn't quite the first time. All right. That looks nice. The nice thing about the ones that are all the way at the edge is you can tell if they're on perpendicular to the tube or not just by pushing them down and making sure it's flat. This one's trickier, of course, because you're not going to be able to push it against anything. You're going to kind of have to eyeball it, which isn't that bad. I mean, do check to make sure that this ring is perpendicular to the tube or thereabouts, because if it's not, first of all, it won't look right, and we actually care what it looks like in this one since it does have decorative elements to it. But it'll also not do its job in the motor or as a motor mount if it's crooked like this, so it won't be up against the body tube of the rocket properly. All right, the stock here is actually a little bit warped, which could have been me, could have came that way, I don't know, but yeah, I'll try to, yeah, that seems all right now. All right, before we start applying the little doodads, I'm going to give myself a nice fillet to make sure this is strong. This one down here is really easy. On goes the glue, spin it around, and then I will use my finger to just kind of smooth it out, get rid of bubbles, get rid of the excess. This one I've already kind of given myself a little bit of a fillet as I smushed it down apparently, so I don't think I'm actually going to put a second fillet on this side, especially because I'm going to have to do the decorative work there. But I am going to put a fillet on this side. Usually I go pretty heavy with the glue when doing these because it just wipes off. And it's an exterior part, or an interior part rather, so you don't see it. But in this case, again, I've got these decorative elements that are going to be on the outside. I don't need to be smushing glue, which I kind of did anyway, into the slots. All right, well, that's fine. I mean, I didn't put glue in there anyway, but there's the motor mount. The structural part of it is now complete. The remaining part is the decorative part. But before I do that, I want to make sure that my measurements look good. So I need this particular piece at exactly 1/2 inch because it's going to be where the, well, it sticks out the back of the rocket where it's built. So just a quick little measurement here. And yep, looks like I didn't mess it up too much. All right, again, I'm not going to, there are 12 of these. I'm not going to film myself putting 12 of these in into the motor mount. That's not terribly interesting, but I'm going to do it anyway. So they're going to go in like this. This little notch is going to go into the groove, hopefully quite nicely, because we've knocked them out pretty well. So this could be a little bit problematic. I'm going to put just the trace quantities of glue on the bottom, definitely, and then just a little tiny bit up here on the edge with the notch in it, because, as I said, there's already some glue that I've kind of smushed places I didn't really want it here. So if you get the notch in correctly, then this edge should line up directly with the edge of the tube if you did everything else right. And then you can check to make sure that they're vertical. Mine is not at the moment, so we'll kind of adjust as necessary so that it's sticking in that slot that we cut, and then it is straight up and down. And that looks pretty good as it stands right now. Now, because the glue is not dry on this, when I push these in there, it moved the ring, which I can live with, because I'd rather have a little bit of wet glue here making my life easier than the other way around, having it be dry, resisting me pushing it in, but also maybe like having the hole glued shut. We certainly wouldn't want that. So this is actually, that first one was fine. Once you get one on, I wouldn't say it's harder or easier. It's just, if you have nimble little fingers, then you're going to be fine. But my fingers are not particularly little. Whether they're nimble or not, I wouldn't care to make any claims one way or the other. But my goal here is that I don't bump the work that I've already done too much. So, if you've got tiny little delicate fingers, this is probably going to be easier than it is for me. But it's really not that bad. The only thing that I really want to try to avoid, at least to some level, is I'm going to make this end here, it's going to be a gluey mess, but I would prefer it not to be, because it's an exterior part that's not going to get sanded. So I'd like it to be as clean as possible. So I'm going to kind of scrape off as I go with my fingernail any kind of little glue accidents that happen to be along for the ride. All right, let's do one more of these, and then, at least on camera, and then I'll do the rest on my own, because frankly, as I've said, you don't need to watch me do something 12 times when 1 or 2 times would probably be adequate. But anyway, this one, unfortunately, the groove was not as clean as the others. So this one is proving to be a bit more of a challenge. So I do feel good about recording the one more. Still, ultimately, it went in, and it is pretty vertical. So that's basically where phase 1 of this construction is going to end. Off screen, I'm going to finish doing these and finishing up the wood so we can assemble it in the next one. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.